Well, good afternoon and welcome to our Miami's Community Newspaper show. I'm Mark Trowbridge with our Gables Chamber of Commerce. And well, this is the music by Randy Newman. You've Got a Friend in Me in honor of Best Friends Day. And guess what? I just found out the lovely Cindy, who's here helping produce our show today, knows a really great friend of mine going back more than 30 years. And I just want to say a quick hello to my friend, Patrick Roger Gordon. Michael?
Terrific. Okay, so here we are. The Coral Gables
I like
Chamber
how you are so much more mannered than Grant. Is
Why
that you
would
didn't
you
want to
say
like
that?
step on me. You didn't just intrude. Grant usually calls me 3 or 4 times a day. I know everything he's doing down to, his vertigo issues and whatever other things. And I didn't know today he wasn't going to be here. I had a moment because I wanted to talk about friendship.
So speaking of friendships, I'm glad that you found out your friend is connected to Cindy, who's right back there producing the show.
Small world.
Tommy is here, but he's stepping out in just a moment. And I think that...
Does Tommy have something to do for the Marlins today? No.
Okay, so mainline Marlins, right? Every day with Tommy Stitt and David Winker. You can find them on wherever podcasts are.
Oh, nice. Wherever you listen to your podcast. So we have a podcast, and so we have it on Spotify and a couple of other. It's nice because they thread through. So
it's amazing how communication has changed in the last 20 years. And if you look,
it's so
in the last couple
accessible
of years,
and edible and just right there in little nuggets.
yes.
By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't say
Here it goes.
how much I love that sweater.
I could see that coming.
I know I'd stretch it out a little bit like in the neck hole, but it is a V-neck. But I think we should do a show where we change clothes. That's a hot trend on TikTok right now. I know you don't spend a lot of time on TikTok, but it has been my COVID little indulgence.
So do you remember Lorenzo Labreja?
Of course.
So,
father.
Yes, your
Lorenzo
father.
Labreja.
So 35 years ago, more or less, Lorenzo was here. One day we're
Oh,
driving.
what was he, 15?
Yeah. Actually, we found him when he was in school. He got suspended for tape recording a conversation with Congressman Fasell. I said, you get over here. He comes over here. We said, we're going to print a newspaper for free. He brings over his 14-year-old editor, the senior
I love
editor.
it. Where was he in high school?
I think it was Southwest.
Southwest Public School.
He's like 18, 19. He's working here. And so we're driving around one day. He says, look at that guy. He's wearing a sweater. What do you think of sweaters? I said, I hate sweaters. I really would never wear one. Meanwhile, it was at Christmas time. What do you think was in the package that he gave me?
A sweater.
But so, Lorenzo, this is for you, baby.
Lorenzo, we miss you. I think you've been in California now for a number of years, running a great parish. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
He and I knew each other when he was working for a couple of different local foundations. And then he went to work for Seraphic Fire. I was on the board of trustees. And I'm just a huge fan. And when he decided to enter the clergy, Episcopalian, maybe?
Yes, absolutely.
I couldn't think of anybody who was more thoughtful, more warm, and really would bring communities together, because he'd been doing that since apparently he was 15 years old.
Yes.
And probably under his cloak is a sweater.
Yes. I say, and it's Best Friends Day today.
It is. And I'm so blessed. I have a number of really great friends. So I want to thank Tommy and Cindy for playing Randy Newman's song, which, by the way, he won an Oscar for that song. It was a theme song from a movie. I wish I could remember it, but Tommy will figure it. Toy Story won an Oscar. He's got multiple Oscars. Not much to look at, but a super talented pianist, lyricist, and musician. But National Best Friends Day, I talked to a couple of my best friends already today. Talked with Denise earlier, and she told me you may not buy any new stationery until you use up all of your old stationery. Was that Winker that just went by?
It was.
He cuts a dashing figure. My buddy Marco, and I made fun of his sister today because that just seemed like the thing to do. Sent a text to my friend Sarah Artacona because they're flying out today to Cozumel, and I said I already miss you, so. Really got to check in with your folk. Stay connected.
So a friend of mine who got COVID about 6 months ago, and we were walking through that together for him, and he was really suffering, and he called it the disease of loneliness.
Is he a similar age?
Yeah, similar age.
Yeah, a little more risky.
And when we used to run marathons together, I know that's hard to imagine, but he said to me one day, we were doing a marathon, he said, how you feeling? I said, not very good, right? And I had to sit down for about 30 minutes.
Oh,
and I reminded him how he stood by me during that time. when he was suffering with COVID, I reminded him what a good friend he was, right?
Listen, that is the unconditional joy of friendship. I mean, I am a handful, and
Yes,
of
you
all
are,
of
Mark.
my friends, you know, they have to put up with me, the individual, me, the chamber president, me, the, you know, hoarder, all of my, you know, strange habits, you know.
Not you.
And now my obsession with TikTok, where I will forward them. I just showed you one, but I just randomly send them, and you know, if they make me think of my friend. So that one I had just sent to my friend Marco.
Okay.
And,
It's National Daisy Day.
Ups a Daisy Day. So you know, that's like an old term, like ups a daisy. Like you
Oh,
might
that's
say
true.
that to a kid, or like if you're born in like the 40s or 50s. That's a term you might use.
So how does that correspond with the next one, which is the
Like name your poison. I think you know, name your poison is really I think it's when you're talking to your bartender will say, name your poison.
Right.
So, you know, I'm not much of a drinker. And so, you know, my friends are like, you know, if you were to have something, and I'm like, oh, I'd probably have like an Arnold Palmer. That would be my poison. But I love when my nephew is a great mixologist, and you know, I have friends who you know, really think about the bar and that bar experience. And Drizzly, you know, the home delivery company that took care of everybody during COVID. I mean, double-digit growth. Bacardi would even tell you their domestic sales did very well in COVID. Not so great on the restaurant side in terms of distribution and supply chain. Then it's Call Your Doctor Day. So, you know, I have a team of doctors that keep me upright. And, you know, we use this team approach, and they're on a portal. So, you know, almost every day, every other day, they're sending, you know, updates, or, you know, send us a picture of your food and what you're eating and what's going on with your food diary, and give us a, you know, a weigh-in.
Would you like to share how much weight you've lost in the past?
I've lost over 80 pounds. So I'm down to 315 pounds.
Oh, gee.
And my goal is to be by, you know, the end of the summer, because I probably lose a pound or two a week, to be under 300 pounds for the first time since I can remember. So I got a suit. I'm wearing suits more, which I think all of us are, you know, back in the office. And I had pulled this suit out. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to wear this suit for an event we had last week. And, you know, it's like 6:45. It's dark. The dog's ready to go out. And I'm, you know, some people lay their clothes out the night before. I'm not that guy. So I pull the suit out, and, you know, I have the shirt on already buttoned, and I put the pants on, and there's just no way. They were so big.
Congratulations.
And I'm like, maybe I can cinch it with the belt and just wear the jacket over it. No chance.
3 inches on each side.
But I don't know what to do, because it's hard. I mean, you can get suits brought in, but you know, it's really difficult. I got this jacket within the last year, and it's gotten to be too big as well.
So I too, during COVID, I took this many clothes and I gave it to Goodwill.
19 boxes I did to Goodwill.
And so
I have no choice but to
yes,
keep it off.
And so now I'm back to fill the closet. So I went out and started buying suits and stuff.
I know that your wife doesn't like that.
But speaking of that, we're putting a new closet. It's a big walk-in closet. So the current one is about 10 feet long for me, 12 feet long.
That's yours?
Yeah, to here. And she says, the new one, Michael, yours is over here. I go, what's that over there? It went from...
So she expanded and you downsized.
Yeah, I think that...
Well, listen, first of all, you can fold those sweaters. They don't have to hang up. You don't want those little hanger marks.
That's true. All right. I have different colors, too. Thank you, Lorenzo.
We're totally switching before the show ends.
Okay, so let's talk about St. Thomas University. You're an adjunct professor. Is that the right
That's
term?
right. I'm about halfway through the course. I always go right after this and head north and finish
What
my
is
prep.
it you're sharing?
I'm teaching class in negotiations. So last week was our midterm. Tonight we have two guest speakers. We have Eric Woolworth, the president of the Heat Business Operations, and then Eric Palms, the president of the Orange Bowl Committee. Eric's going to talk. Eric number one is going to talk a little bit about contract negotiations, vendor negotiations, sponsorships. And Eric number two is going to really walk us through the bidding process for a national championship or national semifinal with the college playoff system. So
that's terrific that you're bringing that to the forefront.
You know, the students, I think, when you're at, most of them are, you know, traditionally young master's level students, kind of like Cindy is. Like they've come out of undergrad, maybe worked for a year or two, I've got 9 grad students. So some are just starting, some are toward the end of their program. Mine's an elective course. They have to have a number of elective credits. And so I haven't taught there in 15 years, but before I taught there for 7 or 8 years, and I was teaching year round. So it's nice to be back. It's nice to be asked. I'm a big fan of St. Thomas University. I'm a big fan of their mission. I'm a big fan of their president, David Armstrong. Ted Abernathy runs the program, and the students are great. They're fun.
And speaking of that,
I try to pretend like I'm still
relevant.
And well, thank you, but
You're welcome.
but that I'm young in their age, and
so I saw Dr. Mike Allen, the first male president of Barry University.
That's right.
He was here a little while ago, and my hat's off.
Yes, remember those were the Adrian Dominican nuns. I mean, when I got here, Sister Jean was president, and we had Sister Linda. 2 powerhouses, not only in being college presidents, but community powerhouses.
Absolutely, and she was always in that conversation.
Yeah, we don't have a woman leading one of our higher ed institutions at the moment, because you have Mark at FIU, you have Julio at UM, and then you've got Mike and David, and then you've got Japhus up at Florida Memorial. You know what? I'm wrong. I take that back. You have Madeline Pumariega at Miami-Dade College. My apologies, Madeline.
All right. We were delighted to meet her and the other presidents of the local Miami-Dade colleges. Our best fun was the one, I forget his name, from the Hialeah campus, because we could have bantering about Hialeah. All right.
I don't know that person. Is he just running that campus? Because sometimes they've had presidents running multiple.
So there were about 6 or so that we had the privilege of speaking with. So tell us what's going on with the Coral Gables Chamber.
Well, we're into June, so this becomes kind of our, summer of growth and recovery. So think about a year ago this time, we were deep in the throes of COVID. My staff was just starting to come back on a rotational basis, or still on a rotational basis. We've had a great couple of months in terms of, member engagement. We've planned our first indoor Good Morning Coral Gables breakfast for July. And just really looking forward to as much of a return to normalcy as possible.
We just had some of the folks from the National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI Miami. They were here, and they were talking about this post-traumatic stress that's going to come on a lot of us as we're rotating back through to go back to work, to go back to school, and realizing that we've been through 15 months, last February, March, and through now. And it's just really been tremendous how folks that were able to survive, all right, what they're doing as far as staying connected. So what are some of the things that the Coral Gables Chamber is doing to reach people that are not quite ready to come out and go to public events?
And I'll start with kind of the big picture, which is, chambers have kind of moved out of their traditional lanes of, business development, networking, connecting people, and have had to put our arms around the workforce exactly in what you're describing. So I do think there will be a recovery mode. I think you've got the extremes of those where folks have been home feeling isolated. Even the introverts, I think, have struggled. You've got those who have dealt with, significant anxiety around the pandemic, but also having their kids home, having their spouse home. I think it's incredibly challenging to then all of a sudden, give people a few weeks. I told our folks 6 weeks out, you're due back on July 6th. Even though you've been coming, everybody's back on that Tuesday. We'll have a nice lunch. We'll talk about the plan. If you're having any struggles, let me know. But I think for us is 1, putting a name to that. 2, talking openly about it. 3, encouraging our members to address it from a mental health perspective and not look at that as some type of weakness. And the big one is asking for help. We have a great trustee, Rogers Behavioral Health. We're working with them to be a part of our annual conference in August, because I want people to recognize how they're doing when they come back. So we're not requiring people to take the vaccine. We kind of know who has, who hasn't, because people talk. But what I have told folks is, you have to continue to maintain good, healthy habits, because we work in a small quarter. And then we also have people that come in and out of the office that are just part of, the chamber membership, going to our welcome center. I see that being really back to normal operations probably in September.
And that's the general belief over the summer. Starting in about a month, people are going to start thinking about September. All the kids. Hey guys, the kids will be back at school. We know
which
that.
A lot of people are happy about. I think some people are anxious about it just because of the age of their kids. Maybe they've had some struggles. Kids often get more ill at school and bring things home. And we've been able to avoid that. You and I were talking about avoiding a cold for, more than a year. I used to have an employee that came to work sick all the time. And I shake a lot of hands on top of that. So between the combination of no interaction with that former employee and not shaking anybody's hand for a long time.
So lots of changes we're all going through. I think what an important thing is for us to understand about ourselves and about others, to respect each other, to keep our space, and to understand what it means and how we feel about this change, which is occurring. We see it around here. We had all had our shots, and a month after everybody had shots, we were still sitting across the room from each other with our masks on, trying to figure out the right thing. What is the right thing, right? And
you go into places now, and the signs have transitioned from, mask required to maybe mask required unless you're vaccinated, or, masks recommended. I was at a grocery store last night, and I noticed that it was if you were vaccinated. So then I wore my mask. So I'm thinking, are people wondering if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated? Are they judging you? Are they wondering if there's some other issue going on? And I think we're going to go through some haves and have-nots. There could very well be, people that feel a little bit ostracized, who don't get invited to certain things or feel less comfortable. So I don't know. I also think there's a cadre of folks who are resentful about being called back to work. Like, they really had it in their head that they were going to work remotely. And while productivity was purported to be generally, pretty much at what it was when you were coming home, I never believed that. It certainly is not in our business.
Well, this morning we had one of our team meetings, and I brought in 4 new people that we just had hired. The group was so excited to be around each other, and the people that were not here missed that. And that's part of, in a small organization, that there's a reason why you go there, right? Because you
that
like
camaraderie. Yes. Yeah. So that's a very good point, that if you've already had a hybridized type of environment, and you had somebody who's either come rarely or never come back, whether they have a health issue on their own or they're just taking advantage of the policy, I think it's going to be interesting to see. And, I've talked to other CEOs, I've talked to other HR people. There is no good written policy to A, enforce, and B, deal with consequences. I was on a Zoom yesterday with 12 chamber presidents and Daniela Levine-Cava, our county mayor. And it really was about the challenges of the rollout that has slowed down significantly.
The rollout
of the vaccine. And of course, we're trying to reach into more disparate communities who maybe are disconnected from some technology, some access issues, maybe transportation issues. And while there are, resources being invested, whether it's Uber taking you there, or reaching out in multiple languages, or working through an organization like ours that reaches back into the company, to the workforce, to the individual employee and the employee's extended family. But that is not, our typical lane.
Yeah. And when you think about it, was there ever a time where you couldn't figure out some app and how to do it? You put your phone down and say, I give up. All right.
Sure.
All the time. All right.
Our good friends at the Heat want you to use a downloadable ticket anymore. And even if somebody's transferring the ticket, so you have to have that app, and then you've got to be able to log in. I had issues with that, my fault for sure, and on opening day with the Marlins.
So think about
I act like a boomer even though I'm watching TikTok.
Yes. So think about the folks that just don't have the tolerance, ability, access to so many things in life. And certainly the county, I think, has done a pretty good job in trying to reach to the people that are not in the mainstream. But there are plenty of people, myself included, I just get frustrated, and then I look for somebody to do it for me. And by the way, and if there's nobody who's reminding folks to go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, all right, or go to the doctor, whatever, they're going to keep getting more and more isolated. So tell me about your next events, that in-person events with the Chamber.
So we actually started back in December doing some very small outdoor in-person events. That first one had 18 people at it, and then, slowly growing that. We have not done anything more than, I would say, 40, 45 people. This month, more of those hybrid events. So we have an event on Thursday at the University of Miami, which will be, it's probably about 50 to 60 people. I'd say 45 of those will come in person, and the balance will be on Zoom. Now, is there a greater benefit to being in the room? For me, who's much more of a visual learner and engager, yes. I also know that when I'm on Zooms, which I am multiple times a day, I'm not always paying attention. I'm multitasking. I'm editing something. I'm looking at email. I'm, doing things that unengage me that would be different than you and I sitting here and talking.
So can you take your cell phone and stand it up where the top of it is up against the computer screen, and then you're playing with it and pretending like you're actually listening? And that's certainly one of the challenges.
I don't even try to pretend anymore. It's so obvious. I got asked yesterday. I was on a Zoom at like 4:30 or 4:45, and I was kind of tired. It was Monday and grouchy, and I wasn't paying great attention. I was, I was there. I was present. And then there was this dead silence, and I'm looking, and they're looking at me, and I'm like, "Oh, is that one for me?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then they call me out and say, "Are you not paying attention?" And I'm like, "It's 5 o'clock. I mean,
Let's talk about you MC the community newspapers event with Congressman Carlos Jimenez in Pinecrest. Why don't you tell us about that event?
So what was great about that is that you tried to recreate what has always been a very successful luncheon by kind of turning it inside out. So you still engaged with Joe, you still had, Anna Capri there. I think you actually had a little bit of a larger audience because you could do that. But you transitioned from kind of being out of doors, taking the photos and doing the beauty spot, as I call them, and then bringing people inside. But I thought it was interesting that the congressman noted, one, how great it was to be at an event inside, very few people wearing masks. But then he pointed out someone who was wearing a mask and made it seem like she had some kind of, death-defying illness.
And I think that's important for us to recognize. Say, there's only one person wearing a mask. Oh, my goodness.
But I'm not sure where he was going with that. And then I felt like in solidarity, I should put mine on. I mean, being one of the 5% who got my shots back in January and February and then got COVID in May, I'm much more cognizant. So I wear my mask a lot just as maybe if it brings you comfort, like a symbiosis. Because at this point I've got, vaccine running around inside me, which by the way did its job, kept me very, very mildly ill, if even quantifying that. And then secondly, I've got the antibodies from having had COVID.
So I think the point that the congressman was trying to make is everybody's feeling pretty comfortable, all right, either vaccinated or not, all right, and there was just one person who felt, and it was, a little uncomfortable, I suspect, but I think that he did it in good humor and trying to help people realize, hey, we're doing pretty good. And there's Cindy over there.
No, by the way, that's a pretty open audience to that conversation. It's not just fellow conservatives. It's an audience who, support Carlos even when he was county mayor. And I think he had to probably be talked into a few things here and there, just like I think our governor has and even our former president. But when you get there, you want that buy-in in two ways. One, that you can then stand up there and authentically share it. And then two is that, it's grounded in some type of good, solid information, whether that's the science or whether that's the contact tracing. I mean, I didn't get a single call when I got COVID around contact tracing. So somebody clearly was ill in my presence, got me sick. And, I contact traced with like over 60 people because we had an event with 40 people, including Grant and Aaron were there. I had dinner with friends the night before. And, everyone was pretty cool. Unless they were trying to keep their cool, because they feel bad for you, even though I didn't feel terrible. Everybody agreed that trying to hunker me down for 10 to 12 days that's a fool's errand.
Yes. So let's talk about restaurants in Coral Gables.
Yep.
And I think the federal government also put a lot of money into the restaurant revitalization program. So tell us about that.
Yeah, restaurant revitalization was really the end game under PPP. And what was great about that program is that it had a lot less strings attached to it. One of the things I've learned from our restaurant community is they kind of work, out of a shoebox at times. And, the receipts are there, but they're not as organized. And certainly there are restaurants who, use a point of sale system and, have no issue with that. But for the most part, especially newer restaurants that may have grown out of somebody's kitchen, that's a struggle for them. So the revitalization was an additional infusion of money. It was restaurants only. Some of them had applied under shuttered venue because they hadn't been open. Like in Miami-Dade County, bars were one of the last opportunities to open, same as barbershops and spas. And so the local and others kind of sat there, even though other restaurants that had bars were open, but they aren't characterized as bars. So,
and when we look at restaurants and bars, we look at it as entertainment. That's where we go to feel good, to socialize. So when that was taken out of our scope of things to do, it was uncomfortable. Susan, my wife, would order food, delivered or take out. And I'm thinking, we're eating here at the house, all right? And I'm going, oh my goodness, all right? I would rather go and be entertained for no other reason, to get out of the house. So it's important that you support your local restaurant. In this case, go to the ones in Coral Gables. There's lots of restaurants.
We've got a great cross-section of restaurants, longtime restaurants. We've got 2 or 3 new ones that have opened or in the state of opening or just celebrated an anniversary. We're doing a ribbon cutting tomorrow at Forte by Chef Adrienne, her second concept in the Gables after she re-resurrected, Redfish and then, a couple of other little guys. We celebrated the 1-year anniversary of Market Kitchen, MKT Kitchen last week. And listen, it's great. That's our favorite thing to do. And I have missed the traditional dining out experience. I mean, I was really great with the takeout and the third party, vendors, but the restaurants would tell me it's not helping us to the degree it should. One, we're being a little bit gouged on the fee side. And then 2, it created, I think, a false narrative that they were fully staffed.
So let's look at some of the things that you're on your schedule for the rest of June and July for the Chamber.
So June is, like I said, kicking off our summer months. We're doing 2 or 3 events that aren't in our typical portfolio. So we're doing the legislative roundup on Thursday. We've got 8 members of the House and Senate joining us. Yeah, we think that's pretty good. Deal. Yeah, all coming in person. And some of them have been living in the Tallahassee bubble. They were in the bubble for session and for committee weeks and for special session, especially on the Senate side. Next week we're doing an event with the Canadian Consulate around a post-COVID world related to sustainability. The reality is Mother Nature has been in the best mood for the last 1.5 years because we've been out of our cars, we've been walking, exercising, we've been, taking our bikes places, and she's had a good run here.
So I've looked at pictures of the bay before COVID and then during COVID. It was clear, like the beaches in the Bahamas.
It's amazing how regenerative, though,
yes,
nature is. And that's the thing that's so frustrating is that if we just embraced that, a little bit more year round, we could see that path forward. But, we don't do it. And whatever. I love that Mother Nature was in a good mood.
Yes.
And because she can be cranky.
Yes. And my congratulations to the county for appointing their first Bay officer.
Arella Begay. Right. And then she works with Jim Murley.
Yes. And my hat's off to her. And actually, when 2 years ago, she said, I think we should do this type of setup. All right. She started Miami View. All right. And it was a delight to be with her. And so the Chamber is really involved in social media and staying connected. So that's one of the ways you do that. But tell everybody some of the things that you do to be on top of people's minds.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because, probably about 1.5 years ago, we brought in some outside support to help elevate our game. And amazingly enough, we had a 2 or 3 month head start before COVID came, and literally everything moved to the social media space. That paradigm became our lifeline. Whether we were communicating directly with members, whether we were doing a video shoot about upcoming opportunities, or better yet, resharing their own pages, their own products and services. Our retailers, we've talked to them for a number of years about e-commerce, but it was a struggle to get them to make that move. Most have done it, and I hope it's here to stay. And then the last piece, I would just say, our goal programmatically is to, like you said, be relevant. But I love the work that these restaurants are doing. It's very creative, and listen, we love celebrating them.
Yes.
It's been too long.
Can we go back to where you said you were on a Zoom yesterday with some other leaders of the local
Yeah.
business organizations? So tell us about what that discussion looks like.
So that is the Coalition of Chambers of Commerce, which I co-chair with Steve Adkins from the Gay and Lesbian Chamber. And, we could have as many as 18 of our local chamber leaders join us. That's everything from Elaine Adler in Aventura to, Mandy and Eric out west to, Les Burke, the new head of Chamber, South Dade Chamber.
He's quite the gentleman.
Yeah. So he was on his first call with our group, and then a little bit of everything in between. And, Mayor Daniela came in to talk about the vaccine, but I said to her, I hope you don't mind. I know you're with us for 20 minutes, but I'd like to reserve 5 to 7 minutes at the end to talk about the issue of gun violence, because we've had a horrific end of the month of May, and already into June, we've had some real challenges. So
it seems to me, and it just, when my memory back a few years ago was probably better, but it seems to me there's a higher level of criminal activity with weapons, right? And when it strikes across from Miami-Dade College, across the street from there, right? And I saw some pictures of the alleged perpetrators. One looked like a tiny kid.
I know.
What's going on in their brain that they would do that?
And listen, I know this is tearing the mayor apart, because one, there are loved ones who are, outpouring of, cries for help. And you have to be the comforter in chief along with the chief executive and all of the other roles. And, Daniela came from the nonprofit world, so I have no doubt that she's got a deep skill set there. But how many times can you say, I'm sorry? How many times can you say, everything's fine? We have a systemic issue in this community.
The director, Freddie Ramirez, I think that's his name, is scheduled to be on our show on Thursday. And the conversation is like, well, what are we going to do about it? This is not like do a switch. This is a whole.
And he was very emotional last night when he was talking about the shootings, I think, that had happened in Liberty City. I mean, that weighs upon you no matter your profession. But if you are our top cop, then I think it's even more painful, because you're going to second guess yourself. You're going to say, what if we had done this or responded like that or reached out like that? And the answer is, you don't know.
So Keona McGee was on one of the shows the other day, guest of Robert Asencio's from MiamiCopTalk.com. And of course, putting it in there for you, Robert. All right. That
good plug.
And to listen to him and to try to understand, he's like the point guy about what are we going to do as a community to try to minimize this, right? Historically, during the summer, people, when they were out of school and out of doing crazy stuff, right, they would go and there would be a problem during the summer. But this seems to be picking up, all right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what's our next step? Now, Chief Land of the City of South Miami is supposed to be here tomorrow, I think, to talk about this, right? So it's on the top of people's minds, and it
has to be.
Right. And what? For the first time, I thought about Chicago and Miami. First time ever. Right? We say, oh, that's a problem over there.
It's always the other folk.
Right. So now when it's in West Kendall.
And Daniela said that. She's like, listen, it's not unique to our community, but this is where we live. This is where we invest. This is what we love. And so, you're hearing about it every single day. I mean, and it's brazen. It's not a hide in the woods and like you're in a duck blind. It's getting out of a car, 3 or 4 people. You're probably in a camera. Going in, shooting people, getting back in that car, and what do? You ditch it in a canal.
And by the way, at least people forget what happened on Miami Beach. The same thing, guys out there shooting people.
Right.
And so for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to think about that a whole lot more. So I'm not sure what the answer is. My hat's off to the people in government that are trying to figure out what to do. I include police in there.
Yes.
And it's not just enforcement. It's a whole bunch of stuff to be able to reach across this. So I hope that we can sort of take care of that. But let's talk about the wonderful job that the chamber is doing in growing the chambers. Tell us about your new members.
So, we've had a great 3 months. April and May were very strong, and even, March did well, over 75 members.
New members.
new members
that is
in that
tremendous.
3-month period. So
That's
we're
almost one a
averaging
day.
25. We are. If you factor out the weekends and holidays, each week's about 22 to 23 days. So, my job is to kind of, keep the boat rowing. But I also know that, we want to be supportive of each one of them and what assets they want to put forward. It's been great. And a lot of it's low-hanging fruit. They were already members. So it's time to go back and say, listen, you've been gone for 15 months. We need you back.
And so we hope that the people that have dropped out of the chamber,
Yeah.
say it's time. You can start getting more value for it, all right, and meet people. And it's all part of the therapy that we all need to be involved with.
So many people said, I'm not continuing until you have an in-person event. That's what we've been having them since December. So hit me with something else. And they usually are like, oh, okay. And then we come and hang out with us and see where we're at. And listen, we take feedback all day long.
And I think that's where we work closely with several of the chambers on the other end. And our job during the last 15 months is to stay connected,
Yes.
and to help people communicate with each other. And for some cases, it was their entertainment. All right, that's all right. Don't step on it, hurt yourself. Okay, I see Nicholas Children's Hospital joined.
They have been a longtime trustee, and we met with their new, relatively new CEO of the system and the CEO of the hospital, Perry Ann Reed and Matt Love, respectively, and made a pitch to them to move to that gem investor. They want to connect closer to the Gables. Both of them are dynamic leaders. I think they're going to bring a renewed energy to the staff, to the foundation, to the fundraising efforts, and they're in a neighborhood over there at Shenley Park. So it's very important to have good stakeholder partners, and we are that for them.
A couple of years ago, I had an occasion to go visit the parents of a child that was there. And when I was walking through the hallways, you realize what kind of work these people are doing. It's so emotional.
Yes.
And you look at, oh my goodness, it's these little kids that they're saving, all right? And it is just really tremendous. So we're happy
I feel like we all know a family whose child has gone through, or children have gone through, at Nicholas, and they're in good hands. I mean, that is a preeminent. It was Variety Children's Hospital way back in the day, and so it's got a great pedigree too.
Yes. So we have So let's see. Father's Day is coming up.
It is. The first day of summer is also Father's Day.
All right.
June 20th.
By the way, I heard a nice pitch this morning on one of the radio stations. If you don't know what to do with your money, all right, and you want to make a gift, call one of the charities in town and say, this is for a gift, a donation for some father out there, all right, on behalf of my father. They said, nice. Even if you didn't get along with them. And it was I don't want to say Camilla's House, it was another one, Miami Rescue. And so it's like,
that's a nice idea.
Yeah, give some money there and make sure some dad gets it. They take care of 200 dads. That's what they do. Okay, next, so we have here your summer loving promo. What is that?
So that is part of our social media work, what we're doing on Instagram and our other platforms. But this year we decided to integrate it with two other things, with a membership sales promotion, which Jen and the team are using right now to bring in new members. And then the other is we're hosting an event, which I'm super excited about, at the Shops at Merrick Park next Thursday, the 17th, which is it's kind of a mashup between the merchants and our members. And we're going to visit 4 great stores. So we're starting at a new restaurant with their ribbon cutting, Eclectico.
And you're going to go, your membership.
If you sign up to come, you can participate in that.
That's neat.
Then we're going to Tommy Bahama. Thank you, Marjorie.
Right.
And then we're going to 120%
Lino.
Clothes.
Okay.
120% Lino, beautiful linen wear. And then we're ending at
size 18. Okay.
We're ending at Timothy Alton, which is a great British-inspired store. The designer Timothy was from Brighton, and he's still a humongous soccer fan, so he's still a huge fan. So.
What is going to go on at Fairchild Gardens? What are you guys up to over there next month?
Well, we had lunch there with their new CDO. And I said, we used to do a trustee luncheon out here. We'd come out, have the meeting in your boardroom, and then we could have up to 80 people for lunch. I said, I'd really like to do that again. It would be very important to us that we re-engage. And, the Garden's a great example of a place that has remained pristine because, one, they had limited the audience. Before that, it was closed. And when it opened, not a lot of folks were thinking, let's go to the Garden. It's a little warm. But what's really awesome about that is they have a great installation right now called Jurassic World. It's So they have 8 or 9 installations of dinosaurs, and you can get up close and personal, take photos, and very cool. Very, very cool.
So speaking of that, I'm going to do a little shout out to any muralists that would like to use our building as their canvas. I'd like to talk to you about some really neat stuff. All right.
Would you be comfortable like submitting to like a portrait? Because I know exactly what I'm going to have you wear.
All right, new subject. So I'm looking for somebody to paint on our wall. All right, really something very neat.
You know where they've done that super well? Austin, Texas. They've really got a great set of, well, many sets of murals. Everything from corporate buildings to tags they do on a hotel. They're part of the tour.
So we want to do that right here in South Miami on 62nd Avenue. Got a lot of.
I mean, you got great frontage.
Yes. Okay. Next here, college baseball, Gators versus Hurricane. What is that?
Well, last week at this time, Miami and Florida were expected to play each other for a trip to the World Series. Well, we sucked, they sucked, and we didn't ever play each other. We were 0-2 and out, and I think they were 1-2 and out.
So you went to
you know
one
who
of
won
those
our regional?
Who?
USF.
What is that?
Not a baseball school.
All right. So there's always next year.
Okay. How many times have I said that? How many times have we all said that? Yes, of course. But, you know, we had kind of a rough finish to basketball, losing to Oral Roberts in the Sweet 16 opportunity. We lost in Gator gymnastics after being ranked number 1 the entire season. We fell off the beam and had to count it. We were 4th ranked in softball and didn't get out of the super regional. And in baseball, we were ranked number 9, and we came up short in the SEC. And
it's going to get better. It's going to get better. All right.
Well, I hope so. But, you know, my true joy right now is that we won the men's national title in tennis.
That's great.
So thank you, Sam Riffis, and for bringing it home.
All right. It doesn't float your boat, but we're happy for them.
Gators are, if anything, they're very impatient. We don't like to wait till next year, let alone next play. And third, I think it's, you know, if you cut us open, I think you would definitely find orange and blue.
So, all right, so is it June or July is Pride Month?
So June is Pride Month. We're celebrating that now. In Miami, it's typically in April just because it's so hot to have a parade. But this year we're celebrating it in the fall. So fingers crossed that the weather cooperates and people are ready to be out on a float, because we're ready to be out there with you.
So, and I think that it's important for all of us to, especially people that are a little introverted right now, are scared to go out to go on your own level, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
If you want to go out for an hour, go back. And you know, my wife was one of those people that she didn't want to venture out and spend a lot of time. And so when we go out, it's an adventure. I was came here.
Is it romantic?
But just to be able to go out and to go to a restaurant was a big deal. But so we do it every weekend, both nights, so she can get reintroduced to the world as it. I
mean, everyone's got their thing. Everyone's got their pace and their plan. I mean, you know, I've been out and about a lot more in terms of, you know, going and having dinner and being comfortable. I try to sit outside wherever we can. But, you know, it's getting warm, and I'm with people who are like, you know, the humidity in my hair. And I'm like, okay. But I had all these birthday parties to reschedule because it happened. My positive test was 2 or 3 days before my birthday. And so that's been nice, too, because I'm extending it all the way into June.
And people want to know how long you've been working with the Coral Gables Chamber.
15 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you were also, during that time, you were the president of the alumni for University of Florida.
I was in 2000.
And how many members are there?
Probably 45,000 in the Alumni Association, and our goal is to, you know, get that number closer to 60. We also had a lot of alumni who maybe weren't members, but were super engaged, because, as you might imagine, a university like Florida, you get a second crack at that apple. So maybe you didn't quite achieve all your goals when you were an undergrad or grad student, but you have every chance as an alum, because so much is so accessible to you.
So I'm going to wrap it up here, but there are some young people looking at you, Mark, and they're going, how do I achieve success in this post-COVID world? So why don't you which camera should Mark be looking at?
I'm going straight up, right?
All right.
Well, listen, Michael, it's a great question and a great jumping off point. And I think, you know, if you've been isolated, self-isolating, self-quarantining, then you need a path forward. Taking nothing away from folks who have, whatever the stressors in their life, whatever the PTSD, as we might call it, in their life, or just the downright, nothing fits me because I've been eating my feelings for the last 16 months. I think most companies are going to have a more relaxed return to work and dress code policy. I haven't worn a tie since the pandemic. My dry cleaner is super happy that I'm back with all of these items and everything. But the upside is that, we've got to take care of one another. I think we get easily disconnected and you're like, oh, I haven't talked to so-and-so. He probably heard from this person. And then, that isn't what happens. And then that person calls you and is devastated. So I will always err on the side of a little bit of caution. I always tell people, would you like a hug? And I'm amazed. I think I'm going 100% at this point. I think only Ron Sheffield declined my hug because he's around his grandbabies. So I get that. I get that. He wants to be very careful. And but people are like, oh my God, I'm a hugger. Hug me. And I think we're going to have more huggers. I think we're going to have more hoarders. I think we're going to have just folks who are maybe a little bit more on the short fuse standpoint. So if you're going to try to have this conversation and you've really been isolated and the most important person in the room, you may have some challenges there. So
anyway, I think we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank Cindy very much for producing the show. She's over
Cindy from Pace University,
graduate student.
Graduate student, that's right. She got her undergrad and she's going to be a graduate student through the Pace University program. So I love it. We have a mutual friend. Did he write back?
He did.
What did he say?
Oh my God. What's the story here?
So nosy. Make it up. Randy Newman, thanks for reminding us all today how lucky we are to have friends. Family, you're born into. Friends, you get to choose, nurture, lean on. I've leaned on mine for many years and so grateful. And just as grateful to each of you for your love of our chamber. Stay involved, stay engaged, shop local, buy local, and let's recover together.